Welcome to the Point Noted Podcast with your host, Johnny B, and co-host who shows up whenever he wants to, former NFL player Rashad Barksdale. It's raw, unfiltered, and no topic is off limit. We talk sports, entertainment, culture, and a whole lot of random shit. Let's get to the point.
Point on that podcast. You're hanging out with your host, Johnny B, and I have my guest host, as usual, OCO. OC, how you doing?
Doing good.
Yeah. Hey, today we have a really special guest with us, man. We have Carlos Marcano, and Carlos is running for Congress for Indiana 3rd District. Carlos, how you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me, guys.
I have to ask, did I say your name right, or did I butcher it?
Close. It was Marcano. Yep.
Marcano. Okay.
Yep.
Dang.
Close.
I gotta get it right. Yeah.
I've been called worse.
Oh, really? You know what? I can imagine. Just thinking about it right now, I can imagine. So because they do have a little bit of Spanish enunciation to it. So, yeah, I can just imagine that being butchered. So, Carlos, you're running for Congress in Indiana 3rd District. I believe that is what, Northeast Indiana?
Yes, Northeast Indiana.
Yep.
Wabash, Auburn is a famous car place. They have those auctions and stuff. But
Right.
Fort Wayne is a major city, if you want to call it. It's the second largest populated area in Indiana. So.
Absolutely.
Love Fort Wayne.
Yeah.
Been there many times. OC and I have Indiana background, so we're not shy to the Hoosier State at all.
Okay.
Yeah. I think undergrad and everything. So we lived there most of our life before I came back to my favorite state, New York, and OC somewhere in Afghanistan or wherever OC is.
Come on.
No, I kid. OC is in Florida.
What's
so
wrong with Afghanistan, man?
nothing. That's what I'm saying. That's exactly why you're there. That's exactly why you would be there. The sunshine. Right. So. Yeah. Hey, Carlos, so tell the people why you're running for Congress.
Basically, I've been, I'm just a regular tradesman. I've been working for the past 20 years with my father, and, you bust your butt all your life and you expect to see the fruits of your labor. But
Right.
yet, due to policies that, Congress and the legislation, that they're putting out there are not helping actual working people. People putting their nose to the grindstone, we're not seeing a lot of upward movement. And then with this pandemic, it's only going to get even harder because of the redistribution that's happening from these so-called bailout packages, basically.
Right. Is it more on a national level that you saw a need for yourself, or is it more of you look at the folks running Northeast Indiana and you say, you know what, I can do better than this candidate, so let me throw my hats in there and I bet I can get this done? Oh,
for sure. Technically, I started to look for a candidate that I could get behind at first, because, I'm a humble guy. I know there are people out there that are well equipped for this political world, but when you start to look at how people are running, regardless of party, they weren't matching up with what I'm seeing on the ground. And ultimately, it kind of got to the point where I'm talking to coworkers and my father every day, and basically it's, start to sound like complaining, and then all my dad says is, either do something about it or shut up. So it's
right.
Here I am, so that's kind of like the start. And ultimately, I've always been a little bit politically aware of what's going on and how it affects regular people. I'm originally from Hawaii, and we have a long history of government involvement that is never beneficial to the actual locals there. And, since we moved out here, I've dealt with cost of living going up, housing shortages, and just not being able to settle down and actually, build something. And once you start looking at the news, you see it's happening everywhere from, and everybody of different backgrounds too, regardless of race and gender and nationality. It's just all happening to us, and it's just getting worse. And here we are.
Right. And like you said, what better way than to get involved, right? I mean, your dad definitely did the right thing. That's a good papa should, right? Point you in the right. Say, listen, I'm tired of hearing you. Go ahead.
We never. He didn't pull no punches, and we always tell each other exactly what we think, and that's what keeps us motivated and hungry to better ourselves, because a lot of times it can get depressing out there. You
Right.
do the same things day in and day out, but yet you don't get, you know you're further away from the goalpost than when you started. And
Right.
time
Right.
doesn't stop, and you don't get any younger, and doing construction doesn't get any easier.
Not at all.
And where do you go from there? Who's going to help? There's nobody really looking out for the working people.
Mm. Hmm.
To that point,
That's
I mean, how has this affected your daily bread, this coronavirus outbreak? How has that affected, the work you guys are doing, your company, your employees, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, it stopped. It's basically just me and my dad right now. It's stopped us in our tracks because we work in people's homes. We do a lot of remodels and
Absolutely.
building. So not only for our protection, but the protection of the people we work for, there's so many unknowns because we still can't get tests unless you're actually showing symptoms or if you've
Wow.
traveled abroad here.
Mm.
And it's kind of just unknown. I know things are starting to reopen, but just me for my own, you know, peace of mind, it's hard for me to go into someone's home and risk someone else's life. I don't think I could live putting someone else's life in danger or bringing it home to people that I care about also. So
Right.
it's kind of put me in limbo right now. I'm just watching and
That's
seeing.
amazing.
I've always prepared for the worst in a lot of circumstances, so I'm not I'm a little bit fortunate that I've saved a little cash here.
Right.
And I've always lived kind of a humble life. I don't buy too many things. My truck is
Mm.
an older truck. I'm not
Mm.
getting all the new fancy stuff, but because you never know, it's so volatile. The
Hey,
way
I,
the
I, I like
economy
I
is.
like fancy stuff. Okay, Carlos.
No,
I
I do
like fancy
too, but yeah,
stuff.
it's nice. I love I would love to have a nice new truck, but I just know
Absolutely.
any one little hiccup in this, and it's like dominoes. It all just
It's
falls
your bank
apart.
account. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
With that said, I mean, how upset does it make you to see how quickly Congress unleashed an ridiculous amount of money for Wall Street, uh, but they're reticent. They've given what they say $1,200 now,
Uh-huh.
and you had to make so much in
Mm.
2018 on your tax returns, and I mean, more credit should be given for the unemployment uh, payments they're giving, the unemployment payments people are getting, because many people are getting actually through unemployment they're getting more than they did at their work regular jobs,
Hmm.
but it's also like contrary. It's the way the bill was passed, you're incentivizing people to kind of stay home with the money you're giving them. At the same time, you passed a different bill that was supposed to have people keep their employees at work. And at the same time, you're telling the people like restaurants to do social distancing. So what? They're getting like 25% of what they business they would have gotten. But
Hmm.
then to get the loan for businesses to pay employees, you have to keep all your employees. It's like just an insane amount of bills passed that fight and pull at each other. How upsetting is it for you? And how much of that are you like really ready to change when you get out there?
It's very upsetting, and basically, especially with what we happened in 2008, how, basically they bailed out Wall Street and, said,
Absolutely.
fend for yourself here on Main Street. They blatantly and openly did the same thing,
Again,
nearly 10 years later. And ultimately, by, you saying incentivizing people to stay home with unemployment, it's like maybe, that big picture has shown that maybe people should be making more at their regular
exactly,
jobs. So,
exactly.
Right.
unemployment isn't, a raise for them. In a lot of different countries, like Canada, I think the UK, they, instead of going straight to the top and giving it to private banks, they mailed out those
The checks.
yeah, those checks, they got $2,000 a month, or in some
Yeah,
cases, they at least got 80% of their current wage. And
absolutely.
it didn't go to the private sector where literally those hungry sharks at the top, had first dibs and left the
Absolutely.
actual small businesses out in the cold. And basically, you
Absolutely.
see it. These multi-million or billion-dollar companies got first dibs. They're publicly traded. They had how many
Absolutely.
millions of dollars of cash on hand, but yet
Hmm.
they still turned around and laid off a large percentage of their employees when it was
A-
supposed to be there to pay their employees. So it was literally
Absolutely.
just a cash grab, and the corruption was just out there to be seen. And that's why I've gotten in there. I'm not taking any corporate money, because that's the start of it. Any
Right.
policy after that we want to pass cannot get passed, because when you're taking money from the fossil fuel industries, from pharmaceuticals, health insurance, airlines, those politicians are controlled by them, rather than
Absolutely.
I only take grassroots donations. Our average donations is literally around $8 to $10. So
Mm.
you know that's not going to be a factor as far as corruption. And I challenge the incumbent that I'm going against to not take any corporate money and just do it straight up.
Yeah. Mr.
Is
Jim
there
Banks.
is the incumbent listening to that?
Yeah.
We're going to
Mr.
push that, because that's the main issue. I don't care what party you support, what
Mhm.
state you're in, corruption is a problem. That's where it
Right.
starts. I don't care what country you're in. Every country
Right.
is dealing
Every
with
country.
around the world.
Absolutely.
So that's the number one root of it.
Yeah. So,
Absolutely.
but and then we have, and we bring this up to every candidate that's been up here is, if you do make it in there,
Mhm,
with the people funded campaign,
mhm,
they start throwing millions at you. Like folks get into Congress and they become a senator and they're going there with literally values of like 100,000 or 200,000.
mhm.
5 years later, they have $5-10 million in the bank.
Yeah.
We know that's not your salary, right? We know where that comes from. So,
Mhm,
and you look at that, right? And you look at your humble beginnings and what you're doing right now with yourself and your father, and you get there, and you have people giving you this money to say, okay, vote for this bill, vote for that bill.
mhm.
Like, how hard is that to just say, you know what? No, the people put me here. I'm not taking this corporate money. I don't want that $1 million. How hard would that be?
I don't want to lie and say it's not going to be hard. Obviously, but I can honestly say for the past 20 years, I've done the same job. It's dirty, it's tiring,
Mm,
and my if I if, one of my faults is loyalty. And
okay.
that's why I've worked with my father for the past 20 years. Obviously people have offered more money or easier jobs, but it just wasn't worth it to me, because I like to sleep at the end of the day. I like to sleep.
Right.
Right.
And I can't live with that guilt of being disloyal, not only to anyone, let alone my father. So
Mm,
that's one thing I have to keep in the front of my mind, is that I'm not there for myself, and I'm not there to be friends with the establishment. I have to make sure where I come from is at the forefront, and that's just a humble construction family. We've worked in the
right.
fields, we've worked on construction sites, military. So we're just a working family, and that's what the majority of this country is, and that's what we have to keep in mind. So I'll I'll do what I have to do. I might not be as successful because I won't take that money, but at the end of the
Right.
day, you got to do the job, and it's got to be done right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is very true.
I I think you hit the nail on the head. Another thing is, there was never intended for these jobs to be lifetime positions. It was always a situation of, hey, go
Mhm,
out there, get the job done, but before too long, come back and go back to your job, your construction,
mhm.
whatever job you had. But
Yep.
now we have a preponderance of just people want to just go there and stay there, and they
Yes.
end up just doing whatever it takes to keep that money salary coming, keep that power, keep that influence. And it's unfortunate. I'm looking at
Mhm,
your opponent here, the incumbent Jim Banks. It's
mhm.
like an ex. He seems to be a veteran, it seems like. He was in the armed services.
I put an asterisk next to that.
My man.
Uh-huh.
Because I mean, almost all his donations are like defense
Hmm.
electronics, defense
Yeah.
aerospace. pharmaceuticals, health professionals, defense. Like, how do you fight this? How are you fighting this?
Right. How you fight big money.
I mean,
Mhm.
one way we one thing is money. Other thing is obviously money then buys media attention. How's that looking locally? How are you fighting this battle?
Basically, it's kind of, I was thinking about this, what strategy is it going to be? And ultimately, it's the truth. Like you talk about his veteran status, let's talk about the veteran status.
Oh
Technically,
man.
I would be going into the military today if I were to follow in his, example, because he went
Huh.
after he was already a state senator. He'd been
Oh.
city council, and I saw there's a program that you can go to in the Navy Reserves that you can get commissioned as an officer to basically jump ahead of the line. You get you
Oh.
and it's reserved basically for a lot of people who are thinking about political
Oh.
Career.
careers and such
Right.
like that.
Right.
I
Is
think
this like
I don't know.
the Pete Buttigieg angle of
Yeah,
it?
I was gonna say exactly. Yeah, so it happens on both sides of the aisle, and it's like that's a resume builder. I
I
respect the
gotcha.
military, and I give them 100% credit. My father was in the
Absolutely.
military, uncles,
Absolutely.
cousins. So you can't play those games and those little identity politics. The truth is the
Right.
truth. You went in when you were a grown man for the for the clout, I guess you could say.
Right. Absolutely.
Do you know
Absolutely.
do you know who this drives the most crazy? Actual military guys.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
This
They
makes
hate that.
them
They hate
Yeah.
pretending.
so upset.
Hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, because they're
Yeah.
young men putting their lives on the line. You
Right.
know, trying to better their situations, just because my dad went in when he was 17 years old back in the day,
Mm.
and because he wanted to get out of the town he was living in. There wasn't a future there, and that's the common thing around
Common
for
thread,
most
yes.
people. It's something better, whether it be college or just to travel and see the world, things like that. And here he is using it as a resume builder. So, because right off the plane, literally the same year he got out, he ran for this seat and he got it. So
Wow.
it's blatantly obvious, and it just needs to be told. The truth just needs to be told about that.
Right. Right. So when I look at the platform that you have and some of the issues that you're running behind,
Yeah.
some of these things just seems like we should already have in place, like affordable homes,
Hmm.
equality and social justice, prison reform.
Yeah.
Like these are things that should come with like human rights or just like decency, but it doesn't. So when I look at that and I look at things like affordable homes, like why is that? Like why are we still fighting to have that in place? Does that still just go back to corporate money telling folks in Congress what to do? Does that still go back to that? Like why is that still something that we don't think about and say, okay, we have to do this for the people?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. When real estate and developers are, donating to campaigns, of course, that's
Mm.
what leads to, price of housing going up, and
I
uh,
see.
and the recession of 2008. A lot of people foreclosed, and here comes,
Right,
those wealthy developers cleaning up,
right.
buying things
Cleaning it
cheap,
up.
Yes, sir.
and then
Mm,
they turn around and sell it high. And the same thing's going to happen right now, I think, because a lot of people being unemployed, they're going to go, get displaced from their homes. Eviction rates are going to go up, and
Mm.
I think Indiana, as well as many other states, is very, the eviction laws, favor the landlords. Sadly
right,
to say, and in a time where you're supposed to be sheltering in place, hard to do that when you have no shelter, and
right,
homelessness is growing across the country.
right. It's just lack of decency. No one has any more human
Yeah.
decency in them. It's all about the money.
Hmm.
Like, oh, we don't care. You find a place to stay, so get out. You're
Exactly.
not going to pay, you got to go. So, and I think that's what we need the state officials to step in and kind of protect folks and,
True.
make it a better living condition. So, speaking of that, the prison reform system, right? So, we do criminalize, marijuana and release those being in prison over, small pot offenses and things like that. So, how do
Mhm.
we then put them back in society? Because if they're coming out, depends on how long they've been in, they don't have job skills, they have nothing. And this is one of my biggest problems with the prison system and rehabilitation that is supposed to be,
Mhm.
but it isn't. When you release them into society, they have no direction.
Mhm.
Like we're putting them out there, we're not saying here's a job, here's an education, here's what to do. Like, so how do we fix that?
Well, I think I just saw a clip of Martin Luther King Jr. saying the other day, and he was talking about slavery in general. But
Mm,
basically, he was talking about how people always say to pull yourself up by the bootstraps. And he was
Exactly.
right,
saying how basically these people were released with no boots at all.
Wow.
So it's kind of like we need to. I know there's some prison systems in more progressive areas that offer high school and college degrees, which
Right.
that's a very good start. But
Right.
also, I guess we have to start and nip it in the bud. Whereas to why are we
Couldn't have
incarcerating
mean that.
more people
Right.
than some places have people total, the
Yep.
population of
Right.
certain countries, we have more people in prison. So that's where it starts, and it goes back to the neighborhoods or the conditions that they grow up in, where the education system is not being funded or staffed properly. How like you said earlier, even to the point of homelessness, it's a cultural thing, not just economical. I've talked to a lot of people who work in organizations that deal with homelessness and mass incarceration, and it stems from a cultural, understanding.
Right.
That first off, everybody's a human being and should be treated
Mm-hmm.
as such, not just thrown away and locked away.
Right.
So it's sad. It's a huge undertaking, and it's going to take time. We can't admit that just because one person gets elected president, or we get a handful of people in Congress, that everything's going to change in that term. But we have to have, I guess, Cornel West says, we have to have the hope. We have to have hope.
Absolutely.
Cornell, my man.
Yeah, I can't stop watching him. He's just got too much.
He does. He has way too much. Way too much. So how busy have you been, man? You got this campaign going, and I know COVID, so which means you're not really doing most of your normal job. How busy has this campaign kept you? How busy are you?
It's kind of put us at a halt. We were doing a lot of canvassing, even from November when it was really cold and snowy and icy. We were out there knocking doors. We knocked, about 5,000 or 6,000 doors before COVID hit, and we were just, we were starting to gain steam. Our name was getting out there, and
Good.
so that's our strongest suit is actually not being afraid to talk to people in their own neighborhoods and go to the
Good.
neighborhoods that don't get represented. But as far as it's kind of winding down because it is the last week of the primary. It got pushed back, luckily, but I think we did a lot of the hard legwork early, and it should pay off for us, we hope. But we've also been doing town halls with other candidates from across the country. I don't know if you've heard of like Albert Lee from Oregon. He just had his
Okay.
primary. Sadly, I think he came short in his primary, but he's still
Oh.
out there,
Okay.
voicing people's opinion. And hopefully, we've done a few local podcasts, and
Nice. Good.
and the local media. We've gotten out in the newspaper a couple times. They still kind of don't take us seriously because I don't have the pedigree of
Of
a
course,
typical
that's
candidate.
that's the game.
Right.
That they're the
Mhm.
gatekeepers. These guys.
Yeah,
Right. They're the
exactly.
one who really put you over the top. Honestly, they put you over the top.
Yeah, but
True.
they intentionally also do the opposite. They put you.
Right.
I
They put you
mean,
down.
the fact is,
Oh, for sure.
if there's a candidate running, any
You
newspaper,
should
any
cover them.
media should cover everybody evenly.
Mhm.
Right. Fair.
But,
Be fair.
but
Exactly. Yeah,
you know,
you should just put the information out there and let the people decide.
Let the
That's
people
what I-
decide. That's the thing, right?
Yeah,
I
don't
mean,
be
let the people
manufacturing
decide.
consent on there. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I mean, I think your people need to just probably stop blowing up the local media as well. I mean,
Mhm,
call them out, flood them with requests, flood them with information,
mhm.
because eventually they would have to respond. Like, why exactly is this guy getting 10 times the hours and I'm not getting nothing at all? So
yeah,
you just got to take the fight from a little bit. Otherwise, I mean, like Ocean and I talk about this. Donald Trump had, and he still does to the day, controls the media on both sides.
Yep.
He's
Yep.
always on TV. Always, whatever he says, even when he sneezes, he's on TV.
It's true.
Like, how can you beat it? How can you beat a man that controls everything? Like, I don't know. Like, how can you beat a man that controls everything?
he
So
lives
you guys,
he lives in media's head rent free, as they say.
right?
It's
It
true.
really does. I mean, it really does. So, so how's the? I mean, you're going against a guy like you said that the media seems to be on this side. How you been able to gather support from the locals to from calling and getting on Twitter and Facebook, because the young folks can help you with a lot of that,
Yeah.
knocking on doors and just getting voices and people behind your campaign. Are you finding that to come a little easier? Do you have people like out there fighting for you to push you out?
Yeah, it's surprising. I just heard before this weekend that there were actually people out kind of canvassing, socially distancing themselves, but just canvassing on their own in their own neighborhoods. I didn't, instruct them to do that. In fact, I would have instructed them not to, because I don't want, I don't want to put anybody in danger, and I would never do anything. I wouldn't make anybody do anything I wouldn't do. So, but surprisingly, they've been canvassing and just putting my name out there, and then on social media, people have been, just passing it along. And obviously we're not hiding. If you ask me a question, you message me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, I will answer you, regardless if it's good or bad, because I have to represent everybody, and not everybody's going to like me. And I understand that, but I have to make sure that what I'm doing is listening to the people. So I have to limit the amount of people that don't like me, if that's possible, but make sure that the policies are fair and balanced, and favoring, the people that I represent.
I love that.
Wow.
Let me ask you this. I'm just going to say, and I could be wrong here, just looking at a lot of your priorities on your platform, if there was any presidential candidate that it sounds the most like, I would say probably Bernie. Did you have support? Did you support Bernie during the presidential?
Yeah, definitely. His policies pretty much mirror mine, because I'm kind of like, I like to do a lot of research. When I was younger, I like to research how to work on cars and mechanical things, and it's kind of transferred over to the political world, where I look at a lot of different legislation and policies. And I was looking around, trying to see, if these policies have been put into, in place somewhere else, and a lot of them already have, and a lot of them for, almost half a century. I think Canada implemented their form of single payer healthcare in the 50s or 60s, and the NHS has been around, and they go even a step further, where they it's controlled, but the hospitals themselves are not privately controlled. So stemming from just the healthcare alone, that seems to be one of the more popular options. Even if you're I think if you're a Democrat, it's nearly 80% approval rating as far as exit polls, the recent ones. And even amongst Republicans, it has a majority. It goes back and forth from, 50% or so, but that seems like something that a lot of people like when you on the surface. And then obviously we see mass incarceration. That's been going on for decades, and the way, like you were mentioning earlier, the way when someone does pay their debt to society, then they're just released, there's nothing for them. You know what I mean? I've reached out to groups, and I've sat in on a few meetings of people who have had family members come back, and they're asking questions like, how do you deal with that? You know what I mean? Because you can't just treat them as if nothing happened. There's a whole, I've never been incarcerated, but I've listened to a lot of first person testimonies, and it's like, it changes you, even if it's just a day or a weekend, or, it can change you. And to expect someone to go back to normal life, we need to change that. And I literally just go to the source. Whenever I have a question, I do a little research, and I find someone near me who's an authority on it, and I was lucky enough to find some of those people. I found a good man who was actually on death row for nearly a decade, and he was innocent and found innocent, and he was let go, luckily. But he told his story at a kind of a TED Talk type event, and he had other guests there that kind of went through the process also, and it was just eye-opening, because you walk by him on the street and you wouldn't think anything of it, but yet here's a man who spent it was dire straits for him, but he fought. He held a sit-in to get some humane treatment for some of the prisoners back in the 60s and 70s, and here he is today, living a good life. But he tells it like it is, that it's not easy, and it shouldn't be taken lightly, and there is a problem with the system.
Absolutely. Dealing with minorities, it's amazing how easily it is for the judges and the prosecutors to get the information wrong, but not care. Like, I was reading one about, it's crazy. You can read all over the country how witnesses will be saying this black man wasn't there or this guy wasn't there, but it doesn't matter because you have to pin it on him just because it's black and it has something to do with what happened. Like, there's no such thing as innocent until proven guilty. And it just amazes me that this continues to happen over and over again. And it kind of goes to the whole police brutality thing. And I'm pretty sure you're aware of the video that came out today.
Yeah.
With that officer stepping on his neck, even though the man had handcuffs on.
I still couldn't. I still cannot listen to.
And think about this.
Yeah,
right. And think about this, right? His supervisors and colleague knew this was wrong. They knew that's what killed his man. And no one said a word until the video come out. So it's one thing.
Did you see the write-up? The write-up was like, it almost acted like they didn't do anything wrong. The write-up was the guy was resisting arrest. And then after they arrested him, they noticed he had health issues.
Okay.
What? Who
I would have health issues too.
Yeah. No, it's that because they didn't. If it wasn't on video, who knows what had happened? Same thing with
exactly.
Statistic. Just be a number.
Yeah, what was in Georgia too? It's like, how many months has it been since?
Ahmaud Arbery, right?
Yeah,
right.
It's been a couple months already, and only now there's an arrest / investigation since the video came out. So, that's a major issue.
And I was actually talking to some people, Carlos. You're on a bunch of construction sites, right? I've been on a bunch of construction sites. I did construction for many years. And what do we know? If the home or property literally has doors open or windows open, that's because there's nothing in there to take. Everything is going to be locked up anyways. And if there's anything to take that's loose in the house, the door is going to be put on, even if it's a temporary door.
Mm-hmm.
For people
and I've told some people too. It's like, I'll be working on a job site where the homeowners are actually living in the house, and people, walking by would come in, being kind of nosy neighbors trying to see what was going on. And
exactly,
it is kind of weird to me because it's someone else's house. But imagine, someone going in, like you said, on a basically empty site, a brand new build or something like that. It's pretty common that passersby just stop in to, be a little nosy, which that's the way it is.
A bunch of 2x4s, and what's he gonna? Everybody who's in the industry knows.
Yep.
If the doors are open, there's nothing to take. There's a reason why the doors are open. But to hear people just chirping and talking like, jogging my butt, so much for your just jogging. What could the guy have taken? It's just the ignorance that is it's just, I don't know.
Yeah. There's just no compassion, instead of just waiting, being patient, wait for all the information to come out, and, don't put the judge, don't choose a side before you even hear all the facts.
Exactly.
And it's a sense of impatience. We have that kind of style now. You want your stuff shipped to you next day. You can get it next day. So it's that instant gratification that we feed into, and I try to be patient. We all have our failures, but patience is one of my things I like to work on, because sometimes it's not worth it. A lot of people get upset nowadays just waiting in line at the store. You see people getting all frustrated, and it's like, just, I don't, I'm just a normal guy. I don't have anywhere important to be. If I was the president, maybe I would, but I'm just a normal guy. So I always think to myself, like, I guess what's so important that I got to go somewhere else that I can't wait a few minutes? And, and then they take it out on what we consider essential workers nowadays. We're always yelling at the grocery store clerk and, the fast food place, and it's like, they're just working there, and they don't control the policies. They don't control nothing, but for some reason they take the hit.
They do. Well, as they say, the fish rots from the head down. Right now, I tend to be more of I believe that basically it's two wings, same bird. Both parties have major issues at the top.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, at the head of both parties, honestly, is just what Trump brings to the table is just disarray, greed, selfishness. He's so self-centered. He's, for the first time, apparently Twitter is going to start marking his tweets with, for more information, click this, to verify some of what he's saying. It's amazing to me how bad it's become, especially with the media. Everything is politicized.
Mm-hmm.
Just by the color of Ahmad's skin, people chose sides. It's like, oh, he's probably a Democrat, so I'm just going to be on this side of the argument, even if it makes zero sense. And the fact is, for us to move forward as a country, the grassroots, everybody on the normal people have to come together, right and left.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, most of the time, Indiana is more of a red state most of the time, at least on a statewide level. Yeah. How are you bridging the gap and communicating these basic things, like to everybody, red, blue, the whole district, saying we need to get housing, education, and health under control, so that we all need that, whether you're red, blue, or purple, it doesn't matter. How are you able to communicate that to people and bring people together? Because I think that's the struggle for you to get where you need to go.
It just goes back to the construction site. We're all there on the construction site. We take a break or we're working next to each other. You end up talking, and we don't. When you introduce yourself or you're working next to someone, you don't say whether or not what party affiliation you're with, or ultimately you're in the same you're in the same place. And from my understanding, most people consider themselves independents. You know what I mean? Absolutely. Especially in Indiana, you don't necessarily have to register as a Democrat or a Republican or Green or anything like that. You go and you vote. You choose at the day of the polling whether you want to vote on.
I love that so much. I love that so much. We don't have that in Florida. They have closed primaries in Florida.
Mm-hmm. So basically, when you talk, you hear the same things, whether it be, the bosses are getting paid too much, but yet they're taking vacations while you can't get a Christmas bonus, or you still haven't gotten a raise in a few years. So it's kind of just conversation and being accessible, because a lot of times politicians, no matter who they are, if they've been there a long time, you'll never see them. You might fly by night, have a expensive dinner. If you can't afford tickets, or you're not invited, you're not going to see the candidate or the representative that is from your district. And usually they're not dining with regular working class people. So unless you got some money to throw their way. But basically it's just going out there and meeting them. Sadly we can't go to their doors too much. Maybe as the pandemic kind of goes away, hopefully, we can kind of figure out a way to, I don't know, interact somehow. We're still waiting. We don't want to put anybody's life in danger, but it's basically being accessible. If you message me or if you want to talk to me, I will talk to you and I will listen.
Absolutely.
And that's the most important part is the listening, because nowadays it seems like we have to create content, all of the men that I've grown up with, grandfathers, uncles, and my father, been quiet guys. I don't want to tell you, let me show you, and that's kind of what I bring to the table, because I'm not a big talkative guy. I'm learning, because I'm doing more, interactions with people, and I understand I have to convey my message and my thoughts.
Absolutely.
Ultimately, it is a kind of thing like, if you give me this chance, it's my job to prove to you that I should be there. And the way I get reelected is not by TV commercials, but the actual work that I put in. Just like anybody's job, you get evaluated on the work that you've done and how well you can do the job.
Right. Absolutely.
Not how flashy your commercials are, or who endorses you. Endorsements are great, but the endorsement that you really should be after is the people's endorsement, not some organization or corporation or some celebrity. It should be the people's endorsement.
Absolutely. So Carlos, when you're not campaigning or working hard, what are you doing to relax? How are you relaxing and take some of this tension off?
I'm actually working hard.
That's the relaxation method.
Yeah, my job is my hobby, and my hobby is my job. I work on when I'm not at doing tile, which is what I do during the day. I'm either working on my cars at home, or doing some landscaping. I just like to be active, and it's hard to shut off, because I've done it so long, and for a long time it was 12, 13-hour days. So it's like
right.
when I get home, it's hard to shut it off. So I just, I find something to fix, or
wow.
I'm always looking at, how to fix different things. I find a lot of broken things, like on the construction sites. You go in the trash can, you can find broken radios, all kinds of little stuff. And it just intrigues me to they say the idle hands are the devil's playground. So my hands are always, doing something. That's how I stayed out of trouble for so long.
Absolutely. But I know Dr. Phil would tell you need some rest, though. Dr. Phil would say, Dr. Phil and Dr. Oz would say you need a rest. Those are my doctors. That's why I go to for medical advice. So I'm just saying, that's why I'm so healthy right now. But yeah, so go ahead and tell the people how they can help your campaign, your website, how they can be supportive and help you out, either volunteering or getting on calls for you, getting on social media for you, donating money. Go ahead and tell them how they can find you, how they can help.
Okay, yeah, CarlosForCongress2020.com. We're also on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. If you have any questions, feel free to message us. If you want to be a part of the campaign, that's great. You can donate on the website. Also, we have merchandise, shirts, T-shirts, posters, signs. Nice. We've been bringing out a lot of signs, delivering a lot of signs to people's houses. So that's kind of been one of the saving grace, that we did that canvassing early, and then people just started requesting signs. So
absolutely.
But yeah, hopefully we got 1 week, and regardless of what happens, this is the first step, and you can't build. Rome wasn't built in a day, so we just got to keep at it, and hopefully we can. Whoever wins the primary, we can hold them accountable, and maybe push them to have some of the policies that the people actually want. So
absolutely. I mean, you're in it now, so like you said, win or lose, you exactly know how to get here and how to keep going. So, but we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
I think you have a really good fighting chance, and get more support behind you, get more people to push more donations so they can get the word out there, and hopefully you'll be able to overcome this.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us, man. And next time I'm back in Indiana, I'll be sure to visit Northeast Indiana.
Sounds good.
I won't go up there to Gary or nothing. I'll be, on the Northeast side, so I know exactly where I'm at.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks, Carlos.
Yep. Take care, guys.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Point Noted Podcast with Johnny B and Rashad B. Follow us on Twitter at PTNoted and Instagram at Point Noted. Hit the subscribe and follow button to follow us, and check out more episodes of us talking a whole bunch of shit. You've been noted.